everybody, and welcome to the NBA on NBC. No, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Going Over. I am your neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter, 43-year-old professional wrestler, Zack Primetime Reeb. And I'm joined alongside, dang diggity dang it, my podcast Patna, the 7-foot Wrecking Ball, Paul Isadora. And Paul, here we are again. How are you doing? It's WrestleMania season.
Oh, what's up, man? I'm doing well, man. I just got home. I was helping one of our old friends, Grizzly Cal Jack. I was helping him move into his new place up here in northern Nevada. So got to spend a couple hours with him, man. Just chatting wrestling, and I don't know, man. It's exciting, man, just to talk wrestling with another guy that's kind of been around and got some stories. So definitely, it's a guy we're gonna have to get on the podcast, and hopefully, since he's just right down the street now, just a few short minutes away, he'll be able to maybe we'll be able to talk him into coming out and wrestling a little bit. Maybe he'll come over to the old school and throw these dudes around. I just was having a conversation with somebody that was helping him move, and he's like, "How do you know? How do you know old Clay here?" And I was like, "Oh, I met him through wrestling, and I was talking about some situations and such, and I was like, this guy is the only guy that I can think of that can legitimately throw me around against my will. We talked about that in a previous episode. That was something that when I sent you that match, it was like, holy shit, this guy's just ragdolling you, 300 and something pounds. This guy's just picking you up like you're nothing. So just another, I don't know, just another reminder that's a guy that you could structure your company around and just make him the guy that just is the buzzsaw that just runs through your company, because he's got the legitimate amateur background that he could legitimately do those things, and nobody could stop him if he didn't want to be stopped.
Man, you truly don't fuck with, and you say that, and you're right. You don't stop this guy if he doesn't want to give you anything. If he wants to pound your ass, yeah, you heard me right when I said that. Pound your ass into that squared circle canvas that you're just kind of going with it. And I had the privilege. I was one of my partners at the time, Taylor Gregory, said, "Hey, I know this guy. He's just coming out of NXT. They just released him, and he's in Vacaville. And I've been talking to him. I think he'd be great to bring in. He's not really interested in getting back like on the show, like wrestling on a show, but he wants to train. He wants to get back in ring shape, and he wants a place to train." And he came up, and the rest was history, man. He's just one of those guys that I enjoyed training with. I enjoyed having him at the time, the PCW work farm. I enjoyed watching him coach, and a lot of the stuff I saw him do afterwards. What I saw him do, and I mentioned this on that podcast, we talked about him before, but what I saw him do in that ring, mechanically, and we talk about that all the time, but mechanically, this guy is insane to the membrane, man. I mean, there was nobody better mechanically. Division One collegiate athlete champion, man. Like I said it before, probably, one of the guys, and there's that word that could get me in trouble. Probably, one of the guys that could beat Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? He could beat Brock Lesnar. He could pick up the Big Show and not just have his way with him, but actually wrestle the Big Show like the Big Show was a normal size competitor. So Cal Jack, Clay Jack, just one of those guys. Good dude too, man. He's a good dude.
Absolutely. And I was mentioning to him that we had that conversation with Casey Thompson, and he was talking about how his son was a Division One wrestler, and that he's like, you just don't realize how how small of a list that is. He's like, you have whatever he said, it was 0.008 or something like that percent of amateur wrestlers become Division I college wrestlers. And I was saying that to Cal Jack today, and he's like, yeah, and it's actually getting the percentage is getting smaller because there's less schools and things like that. So it's just like he's not trying to put himself over, but he's literally just kind of giving me some insight on amateur wrestling, and you don't realize. I mean, obviously, you see him in the ring. I felt, what it was like to be in the ring with him, and you realize how much of a badass he is. But then when you put it into those terms of the small percentage of people that go from being an amateur wrestler in high school to getting a Division I scholarship, we talked before about women in wrestling and how you have so few women, and then you have so few women that are big, and then you have so few women that are athletic, and the percentage of these things just drops off and drops off and drops off as you get further into all the things that the attributes that they have. So you just think about all the attributes that this guy has, and it's just amazing to think about um, how small of a percentage those people are, and that he's one of them. So obviously, Division I All American, and heavyweight champion and things like that. So all of those things were great, man. Just having an opportunity to share some stories with him and meet his family and things like that. So great time today. But what are we talking about today?
Sounds like you had a great time today. You called me and told me about that.
That's right,
And
man.
well, that's the thing too. We find in this business is a lot of people don't know. They're like, I like you because if I'm stuck somewhere, it could be hours away, and vice versa. I know I can call you and be like, "Hey man, I'm stuck on the side of the road. I don't know why I'm over here in Winnemucca or Urington, Nevada. I don't know what I'm doing out here, but I have a flat tire. I have no money. I don't know what to do. I just have my cell phone. I could call you, and even with work tomorrow and everything else, I know you're going to get up and we'll see you when you get there. You ain't going to go brush your teeth and take a shit in the bathroom. You're going to get in your vehicle and come get me. And, what are we talking about today? I mean, the one thing that's been getting me is, the work ethic, that I've been seeing lately. We've been talking about, the truth hurts, criticism, all this stuff. And I think all the topics that we bring up are so important because wrestling's hot right now. I'm on the wagon. I believe it. Wrestling's hot. I just watched the Elimination Chamber, the John Cena heel turn, which is great for pro wrestling. I saw Raw tonight, and it said something like 500 million plus social media views and reactions, and it's like, wow, like this thing it's taken off like the Kendrick Lamar a Drake diss video at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And for The Rock, for John Cena, for WWE, for those guys to be able to pull the wool over our eyes. And that's what they did when CM Punk came back at Survivor Series in Chicago. The world was buzzing. CM Punk was released, but the online dirt sheets, the internet, they were like, this isn't going to happen because we haven't heard the official verdict that he's been signed yet. And for me, when wrestling takes, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never seen this company in full tilt, man, just rolling on all cylinders going into WrestleMania like this. I almost am looking at it going, man, and maybe it should be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe it should be a 3-night event. And somebody had brought up, they said, even in the ruthless aggression era, even in the attitude era. And I said, yeah, but that was one show. It was one WrestleMania. They didn't even consider breaking it down into 2 nights, having 2 main events, 2 separate championships, 2 separate women's championships. So wrestling's hot right now. And we get to these topics and we talk about the talent and stuff like that. As hot as wrestling's getting going into WrestleMania, We got shows coming up. You got shows coming up. There's a lot of other companies that have shows coming up. So the eye of professional wrestling, just like in '96 when Hogan did it again with pro wrestling. He did it back in '84, '85, and we hit the boom. And then again, he did it in '96 with WCW and the NWO, and wrestling was cool again. And then here came the Attitude Era. I feel it. It's not just something I see. I feel it that wrestling's hitting this high note again. So PCW, RWF, every other wrestling company out there is about to get a little bit of a boost, I feel, from the business getting a boost in the eyes of the fans. How do you feel? How do you feel after everything that's gone on this weekend with the direction that this industry has taken?
Yeah, it's an exciting time, man. It's like you see this thing that for years people have been talking about, oh, this guy's never been a heel, and is it going to happen? Is he going to retire and always be a baby face? So I think this is one of those things like we talk about on a regular basis, that you like that little swerve. You like to think you know what's going on and then get fooled, or something completely out of your the realm of thought for you happens, and it catches you off guard. And then obviously we're seeing this big boom and this big reaction, and on both sides, right? That, oh, they're stupid to do this, or I really love it. Whatever your opinion is, we talked about this today. It's just a really good indication that it doesn't matter if your opinion is positive or negative. The big picture is that everyone is paying attention to what's going on, and that's why everyone's got an opinion, and that's why everybody's voicing their opinion, because it's just become this real big deal. So I think it's awesome, man. It's exciting to get a lot of eyes on wrestling, because the hope for us running our in our small territory, or you trying to market to multiple towns, with your big show coming up, it's awesome, right? Because there's going to be a lot of buzz about pro wrestling. So maybe someone can't go to a specific big time WWE event, but they've got PCW right in their backyard, and a huge storyline going into it, and all the build up. The excitement is there, and hopefully this little boom, right, is going to help get extra people in those seats, and maybe you get your biggest crowd. That's always the hope, right? You put all this work, all the storylines going into this, to build up to this momentous show, and hopefully people show up, right? You're doing the right thing. You're out there marketing. You just told me today that you're out flyering again. So it's just, the work that you're putting in, the grind. I always talk with AJ Kirsch about that, that he's always grinding. And I don't know, there's obviously some lineage. Maybe he gets a little bit of that from you, the effort that you put into what you're doing with your company, trying to get it out there, promoting it, that the hand to hand stuff, right? You're out there putting posters on windows, putting flyers on counters, handing people flyers, trying to sell tickets to people hand to hand. All of that stuff, I think, is definitely going to help in the long run here. But this big boom can do nothing but help. So it's exciting going into this moving forward.
Well, we're in this interesting place where we don't have big television and we don't have stuff like honestly, having YouTube and a streaming service, if you have the right programming on it, or your product as well. I look at our product right now, and I was talking to Doc. Excuse me. I saw Doc today, and I was talking to him, and we're just hitting this interesting point where extreme measures is like the end of the season for us, you know what I mean? And then we move on and we start the next season. So you always want to have something in your company that you're able to, okay, we ended you here, now let's go there. And extreme measures is so exciting. It's so exciting for me, Paul. I'm so excited about this. It's so exciting for me because last year we kind of gave the audience, we gave it to them all in one night, and I think we might have given them too much. And we gave them three big title changes where the baby faces went over on the villains, and we gave them a big heel turn in a big match with me, and then we did a kidnapping angle at the end. And I felt like maybe we should have saved that kidnapping angle for what was coming next
Yeah, it makes
on that
sense.
night. But I felt like we gave them so much, and we were doing so much in one town because we had done January, February, we took March building up to April, and then we came back in May, and the attendance just pooped on us. So, when I came back this year, it was like, okay, we're only going to do 4 shows in Oroville. We're going to do 3 shows in Red Bluff. Because if you continue to do the same event in the same place, and it's not saying that you can't, have 100, 150 fans in your building or a certain location and continue to do good consistently there every month. But if you're trying to grow the product past 1,000 fans, even if you're trying to get up to 500 fans in whatever market you're in, if they can see you whenever they want, then it doesn't become something that they must go to. If I can watch Big Paul wrestle every month at RWF, if I can watch Big Paul wrestle every month at PCW, if I can just see Big Paul wrestle, 4 to 5 times a month locally, then there's no appeal, there's no attraction, whether you're 7 foot or not, to come in to watch you wrestle because they've already seen you wrestle. But if I can see Big Paul come to the ring and make a save or a beatdown, and he fights back from that beatdown, then now I go, okay, Big Paul is eventually going to wrestle this person that we don't like, and we're going to make sure we come out to that match. But if it's just done redundantly and it's there too consistent, a lot of people say consistency is key. It is key, but if you're giving them everything consistently is key, if I can watch you wrestle a 10, 15-minute match at will, then I don't give a shit if I watch you wrestle a 10 or 15-minute match.
Absolutely. It's a great point there. And we've talked about it in the past about how you kind of want to, that's why you want to run a couple times a year, and you want to run in some different towns. That way it doesn't become stale. It doesn't become like, oh, I'm going to go watch the same 16 guys every single month, right? That's why we like to try to mix it up. You were doing the prospects to try to find some of that up and coming talent where you go, I can sprinkle a little bit of this in here and there, and you could take some guys off. That way, it's not such a regular thing where people go, well, I'm not going to watch this guy wrestle this month because he's just going to wrestle next month, so I'll see it next month. So I think that's a great point, man. That you mix it up a little bit. You go to some different towns. For you making a couple of big shows in Oroville, that's perfect, right? That way, it's not like I'm going to get to see this every single month. It's going to be like, man, I got to wait 3 months to see this. So I'm definitely going to be there, get my tickets. So I'm going to be there for sure. So definitely, I think that's a great way to look at things, and uh, a great way to go about things where you're not going to have that stale feel for those fans. You have something a little bit new. Obviously, we just talked about having a little bit of the swerve where things aren't super predictable. You have your fan favorites that you look at and you go, I think this guy's going to win. And then when it doesn't happen, then it's something different where you get hooked into the story and you go, well, I wonder what's going to happen next time. So the fans want to be there for that. So I think it's a great way to put things together, uh, and try to draw the fans in, right? Build that intrigue so they wonder what's going to happen the next time. What's going on with this story? What about the culmination? And we talked about that as well. The culmination of a story, right? When do you end something? And we talked about you just wait till it's ready, right? Wait till the fans are ready for this story to end, and then you can do it at that point. So Yeah, I think definitely what you're saying is 100% right.
Well, it's prime. It's prime storytelling, man. I know a lot of people were complaining. Shit, I complained at this. I believe it was a Survivor Series because nothing happened. The baby faces went over at the end. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Zayn, all those guys, the bloodline, they went over, and Paul Heyman came back, and everybody's just, it's just, hey, and everyone's complaining because they're like, man, we expected something to happen here. I expected something to happen here. I was actually pissed. You know what I mean? I remember being outside, being like, what the fuck, man? I expected something to happen. But you have to tune back in because we expected something to happen and it didn't happen doesn't mean that we're done watching. How many times have you watched in the years where you go, man, fuck that, Stone Cold turn heel or this? I'm done watching pro wrestling. I'm done watching it. If this happens, I'm done watching it. You're not done watching it. You're just, they've done their job. That's what happens with this stuff, especially when it's done by design. They've done their job. Because all I heard on the internet, I keep, CM Punk gonna be the guy that goes corporate and goes bad. Do you know all I heard? I even heard Jim Cornette and everyone. They were just talking about The Rock inserts himself into this, and he's such a selfish son of a bitch, and uh, it's all about him. And everyone was saying this, I want your soul thing, and this is bullshit storylines, and it's no good. And then what happens? Less than a week later, the whole dynamic of the industry changes again because the biggest baby face of the last 2 decades at the end of his career goes bad. Kids are crying. Those are my favorite shots right now on YouTube, are the kids crying because they're crying. And we talk about, oh, well, Hogan's was bigger. Maybe Hogan's was bigger, but when we talk about the last 25 whatever years, you're talking about what John Cena just did. And I always say that people are like, John Cena is not a good wrestler. John Cena sucks. No, John Cena is the best. He may not have the best headlock takeover in the world. Neither does The Rock. The Rock suplexes guys from the right side sometimes. It's like that does not matter for shit in this industry. None of that matters, man. These guys are athletes. They're entertainers. If you would have taken any two other guys standing on and Cody Rhodes, like Jesus Christ, this guy is willing to do whatever it takes, willing to bleed the hard way, bust his face. I mean, he doesn't care what it takes. He's willing to do it for the industry. And they saved that F-bomb. Rick Luxury always tells me, I heard him cuss last year at Extreme Measures. I think Rayshawn grabbed the mic and said, give it up, Rick. And Rick was right live into the microphone, was like, fuck you. And he came backstage and and he looks at me, he's like, I know, man, I know. He goes, I know. If you don't want to pay me, whatever. He goes, but there's a time and a place when it's okay to say that. And he's right. We didn't lose any fans with nothing. There was no negative feedback from anything that happened. It was the right place to use the word fuck you. And they saved that big fuck you. Because I remember sitting here live and he said, hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. And I'm like, oh. And I didn't even think like, oh, he said fuck you on right there. I was just like, man, I thought in my head, Rick popped into my head. I was like, perfect time, perfect place. And we get there, and people have to remember, if you're out there watching this is not just field a fucking 5 to 10 match wrestling show. And all right, I got a ring, I got a building, I got the insurance, maybe I don't. And we're just gonna get some guys and put a wrestling show on. 4 singles, 2 tags. No, that's not what this is about. This is about giving people what they want to see. I was talking the other day about Sergio Santana. Everybody, if you haven't seen this guy, look him up. And he's just always willing to go out there and show his ass, whether it's 5 minutes or it's 15 minutes. And what a lot of guys that come and wrestle for us don't understand is, I want 2 hours, because you usually want 2 hours. That's what I noticed about your shows is like if it goes over 2 hours, you always look at this and go, going over. We're not going over. We are going over the time I want to hit here. I want 2 hours. I want to be in. I want to be out. So if you have a guy that can go out there for 20 minutes or let's say 30 minutes from the time he walks out the curtain to the time he comes back, whether it's a competitive match or he's just 30 minutes of entertainment. I know I can get 30 minutes out of this guy. Now I go, okay, I have a 2-hour program. I'm going to get 30 great minutes out of this guy. So now I only have to worry about covering the other hour and a half of my show. Well, Sergio is going to go out there and he's going to give you a fourth. He's going to give you, a quarter of the time that you need of your show. And you can say, hey, you know what? You got 30 minutes, man. Just go out there and do what you do. And then we'll break things down. So I know that you're a stickler on the 2 hours. I want to knock this down in a 2-hour format. So for everybody out there, it's like, hey, you're not just fighting to be the number one guy. We don't just need you to be the lead singer of the band, man. We also need the harmonica. You know what I mean? We need that kid packing around the tuba, giving us a little bit of that. And I know you're, like I said, I know you're a big stickler on that time. So what can you crunch in to that 2-hour time frame if that's what you're looking for? Because I sat down for the Elimination Chamber and I was like, all right, I'm going to watch for about 2.5, and then we're going to be done. 4 hours, almost 4 hours later, I'm sitting here going, what a production, man. Those guys just took us on a ride for 2 hours, man. Returns, everything else. We're in WrestleMania season. You got Zack Reeb sitting over here. And I actually, for the first time in a while, give a shit about watching.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about the trying to keep the time pretty tight like that, and we talked about this with Casey the other day, right? You talked about I like to go out first, right? Because there's going to be a crowd there versus going last because how much of a big difference that could make. And I always think about that with the time, right? How long are you going to be able to keep, a couple hundred people, uh, satisfied or entertained? How long can you keep their attention? We talked about how people can't go for an hour, maybe based off of their skill and ability, but also based off of the attention span of the fans that we have right now who want things to happen right now. They want that instant gratification. They don't want to wait through this whole thing to see what the outcome is, right? So I think trying to keep the show kind of compact and keep it around that 2 hour mark, that's always kind of been the sweet spot that I think about. Just based off of that, right? How long could I sit in a chair and watch pro wrestling, right? Maybe for me, it's a little bit longer. Maybe for other fans, it's going to be a little bit shorter. But like you mentioned the other day, you go first because you want to have a big crowd because you always think there could be a little bit of attrition if you're going later in the show with fans maybe after intermission going, hey, I've seen enough and taken off, or whatever it is. Your kids are getting restless, or you're just getting bored. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you put on an entertaining product where people 2 hours in are wanting to see more. Obviously that's what you'd love. They want to see more, and the show ends. And then all of a sudden you're like, I want to come back, right? Because I want to know what's going to happen between those two guys that I saw wrestle, or I want to know what happened with the storyline that was going on. I didn't quite get the finish that I wanted, right? So let's see what happens next time when maybe the guy that gets knocked out comes back, or the guy that got a sneaky roll up and lost, but was still fairly fresh. So you want to kind of see what happens in those situations. So I think keeping the show kind of tight helps you do that, right? Helps those, in theory, bring those fans back because they want more. You cut them off, and they were still interested. So hopefully they're going to come back the next time, and maybe they'll bring some more people. So hopefully you get the interest of what you're doing up by kind of building that type of program where they've got some stuff to see, they're entertained, and maybe they go home and they're just like, man, I wish I got to see a little bit more of that. So they come back the next time. So that's the way that's normally how I want to structure that. And then I'm going to go back to you with the profanity, right? I've always been a huge proponent of, I don't generally use a whole lot of profanity because I think it's very impactful if you're a guy that doesn't cuss a lot and then all of a sudden, just like the Cody Rhodes thing, right? All of a sudden, it's a go fuck yourself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, you know, it makes your ears perk up. You're like, what did he just say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those situations where, especially you have the Cody Rhodes, you know, always dressed in a suit, looks like $1,000,000 all the time, super professional, you know, the babyface character, all about the fans. You see him signing autographs, taking photos with people, all those great things. So you don't really expect that harsh side, the bad language. You don't expect it. So it caught a lot of people off guard to hear that. You know, it's just one of those, it surprised people, right? So yeah,
All
so
of
that
that.
was right. So I think it's so exciting when that happens because it's the same way with me, right? My kids very rarely hear me cuss, but if it happens, they know serious right now, you know. So
Good
so
shit.
so I definitely look at that like, I mean, I felt like it came off perfectly because of the shock value, you know, and we've talked about that when we talked about wrestling matches, big things happening that get a shock value, and then people just overuse it. So I think with the Cody Rhodes deal, because it's not something that normally happens, it's something that really stands out. And now that's going to be a moment, right? We talk about making moments, and that's definitely going to be one of those moments where people go, remember when Cody said this.
You won't
So,
forget. You won't forget none of that happened. Those were moments. That was a game changing moment in wrestling. Like now, wrestling's gonna go a certain way. That's what I said. It's gonna hit a hot zone right now. And we were talking about the show, and you were saying, is it because the fans can't focus in on 60 minutes? No, it's not that. It's the way the show is structured and booked. So if you have the good guys at the end of the show, if you have your best guys at the end of the show, intermission, whatever, you're running intermission, maybe you're not. But if you got your best guys stacked up at the end of the show, they can you give them that Sergio entertainment. You give them that Jerry Gigolo. You give them all this stuff leading up to intermission. You give them an exciting, entertaining, flippy, flying around match. You give them what they want, and then you bring in the heavy hitters. Then you bring in the big guns what they came to see, and you give them the most time. Then they'll stay and watch that. I remember one time me and Boyce went around a whole year telling everybody at Extreme Measures 20 we were going to go 45 minutes, and everybody in every locker room laughed at me and Boyce. They're like, ain't nobody gonna watch you two dudes for 45 minutes. And we're like, we're gonna go 45. And we told everyone we were gonna go 45. And I remember Keita Murray and Kit Raff, his partner. I remember they were sitting over behind the announce table, and as soon as the match was over, as I was being helped out, I looked over at them, and they looked at me and gave me the thumbs up because I was like, we went 45 minutes. And it don't matter how I'm shit. I Boyce sold a knee injury that I bought into, and I helped him out of the building. And when we got on the stage and I turned around to get everybody to clap for him, and I turned around, he wasn't selling the knee no more, and he clotheslined me and started ha 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 ha. But we went 45 minutes. And what I mean by 45, 60 minutes is it ain't just going that time. By the time we hit the end of this 45 minutes or this 1 hour, the building was the hottest they could be. So if you do it right, you can get these people to sit down and watch you for or a couple matches that could go an hour, hour and a half, and they'll stay and watch it. But you got to give them all this stuff to lead into it. If you give them another 20-25 minute match earlier in the night, then they're not going to be as likely to want to watch another 20 to 25 minute match. And a lot of these guys don't understand, okay, if this is the main event, then the main event, okay, uh, competitive athletic wrestler versus competitive athletic wrestler, heel baby, who gives a fuck? Save the lockup, save the chain wrestling, save the slow everything, save all that buildup for those guys. They're the main event. That's how we're booking these guys tonight. Nobody else needs to do that. Doesn't mean anybody else can't wrestle, but we don't need you to leave these guys to do the slow chain and back and forth stuff. Let them do the 10 minutes before we do a cutoff. Don't try to do that on the night. And another big thing is, if I'm watching a show and they've done everything under the sun all night, they've done every move, they've done everything, every competitive move you can do, and I'm going into that main event, I'm gonna go up to the guy I'm wrestling and go, hey, this is what we're gonna do tonight. Well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna fight all over the building. You know what I mean? Because nobody's fought all over the building tonight. They left that open for us tonight, whether it was by design or not. So that's the importance of watching this shit. And I was listening to Cornette the other day, and sorry, I'm a little heavy on the talking today, Paul. I'm gonna shut up here in a second, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I'm real production meeting heavy. I don't give a shit about getting the guys around the ring and going, okay, everyone, welcome back. Nice t-shirt. Love the new trunks. Been staring at you all night long in them. I'm into, okay, let's get the camera guys. Let's get the announcers. Let's get the commentary. Let's get everybody else that's involved in this production involved in what's going on. And let's find out, okay, what are you shooting? What's going on here? Hey, well, this match has something similar going on. We need to know how to produce this stuff, because it is not as simple as telling some student that's holding a camera, go, at this moment, get this shot. he's not a professional video guy, man. So I think people go about, there's that word think, trying to be nice. People go about the booking the wrong way. They think that you're actually booking like, hey, everybody, welcome together. We're going to tell you what the card is tonight in front of everybody, even though we wrote it down on the fucking wall over here. But the camera guys have absolutely no idea what's going on. They've just set up a bunch of hard cams and some tripods, and the picture person's just walking around getting pictures. So I hear it so many times when people come in the building, they go, hey, man, where's the hard cam? Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit where the hard cam is? Let's talk about what type of a story you're telling tonight so I can get my camera guys over here. Let's get Doc over here with you. Let's get you over here and let's say, hey, what are you going to be talking about during my match? What do you want me to get over during your match? Is there anything you want us to plug about you? Hey, ring announcer, how are we going to say this? What are we going to do? What's the emotion we're going to do here? It doesn't so much matter about you filming my match. I'm going to be saying this at the end. So I need you, cameraman, to get up in the ring and get in my face. It might even look better if a guy attacks me from behind. If you're in the ring and the camera moves around and shakes, it's your production. So when we're talking about that, what's one of the things when you would go to a show, let's just say anywhere, whether it's WWE, Harley Race, whoever, what's one of the first things that you would do when you got to the building?
Obviously, I want to find out the guy that I'm working with. I would always want to know who the referee is, because I think those are things that are important, right? You want to know the guy that you're working with, what type of stuff do they do. You tell them what type of stuff you do. That way you can kind of figure out what direction do we want to go, right? And then if we want to do something a little bit, different, then we need the referee to know, hey, there's a few spots in here you need to be careful of. Watch out for this, whatever. And then I think, especially if there's a production team, that's the time that you go over and explain to them. Maybe if you're there for the first time, this is my character, right? Here's a little bit about me, right? Because we talk about making stuff up on the fly, because most people don't come up to you and go, "Hey, here's who I am." Maybe you've never seen me before. This is my background. I was a college football player. Give the announcers, the commentator, a little bit of information, right? Give them some ammunition for those times that you're selling, or there's a little bit of space for the announcers to tell a little bit of a story. So I think those are the things that are super important, right? I want to know the things that my opponent does, things that we can kind of mesh together, right? Here's some things that I do. How can you counter that? Vice versa. I always think it's funny when people come up to you and say, "What do you want to do?" and you go, "I don't know. What do you do that I can work off of?" Right? Because it's not going to be just, I'm going to structure a match the way that I always do it. It's going to matter, how do we mesh together? What type of story are we trying to get across here? What is the promoter looking for? What do they need from me? What do they need from you? Are we going somewhere with this story? Is this a one-off? Is this something that's gonna, go down the road a little bit? So finding those things out, I think, are super important. And we've talked about before, having the ability to say no, right? Asking a promoter, "Hey, can I have a one-on-one match versus a big scramble match or whatever?" Getting a little something for yourself. I want to show you what I can do. I want to show you that I'm valuable to your product. Give yourself an opportunity to get invited back. So I think all of those things are important. But obviously, if there's commentary, that's something that you want to be able to talk to them and say, "Hey, this is the type of character I am." That way, they can get it over when there's lulls in the action. There's opportunities when you're, getting at the crowd, and they can, funnel in some stuff right there. So I think those are the things that are important for me when I first walk into the building.
I think the number one thing, man, when I go into any building is I am gauging the setup. I'm looking at the setup. I'm seeing how much room I got. I'm not so much interested in talking to the guy I'm gonna wrestle. I'm more interested in, okay, where when I went to APW, I'd always be like, well, where's Shane Mai? You know what I mean? Shane was the camera guy. So I'd always try to find Shane, and I'd always try to find you know, the music guys, and I'd find who's the extra guys that are working the cameras and commentary. I would go up and I'd be like, all right, what's going on? What are you guys going to be talking about? Is there so can you guys get this over? Can you talk about this moment from last time? Because when you're running at a place like this, I was just talking to a student the other day, and I was telling him, I'm like, what's the last thing that happened to you? And he's like, I said, what's the last thing that you did out there? And oh shit. And he just starts telling me. And I go, well, there you go. That's what your objective is. That's what you're pissed about. That's what you're focused on. If you're in a match, you're in a match. When your match is over, or you're coming out to the ring, win, lose, or draw, if someone puts a microphone up in you, I mean, up in your face, not up in you. If someone puts a microphone up in you, you get a hold of me, because I am HR. I will take care of this. We will get that person out of here. But why are you not mentioning these things when you cut your promo? I'll see a guy cut a promo, and you go, okay, what happened to you? What's the last thing that happened to you? Okay, this guy kicked your ass and left you laying on the side of the ring. Okay. Now you come to the next show for this company, and you're wrestling wrestler B. And now you're cutting a promo on wrestler B. Well, that's cool. You're wrestling that guy tonight. But now, why wouldn't you say, hey, last month, I was sitting here just helping, minded my own business, and wrestler A, you did this to me, and I didn't forget about it. So wrestler B tonight, I want to apologize. I'm going to be a little more aggressive, and things are going to the rules might get bent a little bit because I'm not happy about what happened. And I know I'm going to be keeping my eye out because I know you're somewhere in this building and I will get my hands on you. Like, let's talk about what happened the previous time. And we don't get that. We get every promo that's being done or interview is always directed towards whatever that got going on that night. And that's why the story isn't going anywhere. It's like, okay, what happened? What happened last time to you? Where are you going in the future? We don't know because in wrestling, we're just living right in the present right here. Now, that's good in life. That's good in life to live in the present. But it's not good in pro wrestling to just live right here in the present because we're not on a major stage and we're trying to build our attendance and our audience up. So if we're not talking about what happened, if we're not going out to the ring, if I'm going out to the ring and last month this guy attacked me and beat me up, even when I'm out in the ring, when I got that camera right there, as Drake Nelson says, we got that screen with all those extra audience's eyes on there. I'm going to let people know, hey, wrestler B, I'm heading to the ring right now. Yeah, I didn't forget. I didn't forget. I'm going to look at the fans and go, I don't know if you were here last month, but I'm not going to be attacked this month. Like, that's the story. Go ahead and don't be afraid to tell the story. And if there's no direction with that story, then what's really going on here? You know what I mean? I get the reps. I do. But what prospects was, it wasn't about just having a show for the young guys. It was about having a show where these guys could learn how to produce, you know what I mean? How to get in front of a camera, how to take different photo opportunities, how to do different style of 30-second vignette promos, how to do interviews, to get in the ring, to know, hey, 5 minutes has elapsed, go home, go home. That whole last show I did, I gave everybody 5 minutes. And it's like, let's see what you guys can do with the 5 minutes. Let's see where you go with your finish in the 5 minutes. It's not just 5 minutes you're getting, you have a finish here. Do you have a 30-second finish? Do you have a 5-minute finish? Because you could have got 10 minutes out of this fucking match with a very deep, elaborate finish. And why not why not come up to me? Why not go up to Skits? Why not go up to you when you're there and say, hey, I want you to help me with my finish tonight. And I want it to be a good one. Because I just watched the fucking women's match. It was the title swapper. It was Liv Morgan, who's best women's wrestler in the entire world, by the way. Tough little bitch. But Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Bianca and Naomi. And the match was okay, but damn, the finish, man, it was the main event of Raw, and I'm just sitting here. I can't believe it literally was like a 5 or 6 minute go home. And I'm just sitting here losing my mind. I'm like, oh, they got me just hanging on the edge of it. So showing up at the building and just wanting to smoke some weed, go grab a Starbucks coffee and a scone or whatever's going on nowadays. Like, no, show up at the building, get with the commentators, get with the ring announcer, get with the production guys, get with the promoter, hound him, talk to him about what's going on, where you're at, what he expects from you. The last thing I need to do is talk to my opponent. Like, literally the last thing I do. When I was at your show, we were the opening match. The last thing I did, like 20 or 30 minutes, like I was 20 minutes, I'm putting my gear on. Then I finally went and talked to my opponent for a few minutes before we went out and put a little something together. And the end of what we did wasn't even what we had talked about because it went somewhere else. So we did something else. So I mean, it's that type of stuff that we get to these events. So let's not just show up like we're going to put on a match. There is definitely too much choreography going on in everything I'm seeing. Your thoughts, Paul?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just gonna say about prospects. You talked about all the things that you want to do when you get to the building and things that you want to do production wise. And I think it was such a great opportunity for a lot of these guys that are young in the business and don't understand the things that might be important, right? Get into the building, get your gear on, get ready to take photos, right? You got somebody that's taking photos. You got someone that's, um, you know, maybe taking promos. Um, you got other filler stuff that's going to go on to your production stuff, and getting them comfortable with doing those things. Like I can't express how big of a deal it is when I reach out to you and say, "Hey, this is the only photo I've got of this guy from their social media. What do you have?" And then you send me 5 different photos of this person in, different poses, sometimes different gear, because it's a collection that you've been every time they come. They get new promo photos, they get stock footage, all of these things, and just how valuable that is. And I think it's funny that, like, it's like, oh well, the guys don't get paid, but I remember back in the day when you're like, oh well, you're getting paid with experience, and people used to, balk at that, right? Hey, I get to wrestle a guy who I'm going to learn a ton from, who's going to potentially get me bookings down the road, but I'm not getting physically paid for this opportunity. But I'm going to use this opportunity to pick the brain of this guy that's a veteran that I get to wrestle at this promotion. I'm going to network with that person, and I'm going to say, hey, who do you know that you think could use somebody like me? And what a huge opportunity to get that whole promo package that used to talk about paying thousands of dollars for, right? You'd go to a photographer to get what you would use for 8x10s to sell, or 8x10s that you would send out in your promo package. And sometimes that costs you a couple $100. And then you get the stock footage, that you get a couple of different intros that someone could use for your entrance video, and then you get to cut some promos with people there that are giving you some instruction. Hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you, just like you're talking about, why don't you talk about what happened last time to really try to draw the fans in, right? This is what happened last time, and that's not going to happen again, because I'm going to be ready for it. And as a result, tonight, this guy that I'm wrestling is going to get to feel a little bit of that wrath, my frustration from last time, and I'm going to take it out on you. So I think all those things are so vital, and to get an opportunity to do those things with prospects, I thought was such a great opportunity to, just going in and getting those extra reps, more experience, a little bit of what you might see at some shows that have big production value, and what you might see at that next level. Everyone in theory is trying to make a living off of pro wrestling, so all of those things, building your character up and things like that, are so vital, and giving people an opportunity to get that experience, I think is so such a great opportunity. I keep saying that over and over. Great opportunity, great
That's
opportunity,
the
great
next
opportunity.
podcast right
Because
there.
it is, because it is.
Because it
Yeah.
is. That's when we look at it. If you're not showing up, like everything that we're doing for you when we get there, are we the WWE? No. No, nobody is. Are we AEW? No, nobody else is either. I mean, each place is each place, no matter if they're trying to rip another place off. But what we're doing is we are giving you the format. We are giving you that structure right there for this. This is what they're looking for. This is what's they're going to be asked of you to do. How do we know this? Are we just guessing? No, we're not just guessing. We know. Like I know right now, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes remain in this podcast. 5 minutes, remain in this podcast. But we're giving you these pictures. It's like you said, you go, hey, Zack, I need these photos. Well, hell, I don't even send you the photos. You said I send them to you. I don't fucking send them to you. We get a hold of Buck Dennis. He sends them to you. Photos are taken by Brandon Johnson. They're putting a thing. Doc has access to them. There's like 3 or 4 people that have access to them. If you couldn't get a hold of me, there'd be somebody else that you could get a hold of, because we've created a team and a group of guys that we want you to have good photos. We're doing this because I see how much shit photos are out there. I see that no one's using quality photographers. You know what I mean? Like Erin Bucknell's running around and she takes good photos. It just for me personally, I don't do a lot with the live photos at the ring, because if I did, I used to back in the day. If I did, she'd be my gal, man. I'd bring her in every show and pay her to do it. But I don't use a lot of the live photo stuff like that. And maybe she could change my mind. Maybe she comes to a show and takes some photos and I go, oh shit, maybe I want to use these live photos. But everybody needs to, at the end of the day, here's what they need to understand. You're not as valuable as you think you are. And that might hurt. That might hurt some people, because a lot of people can't handle constructive criticism, or they can't handle the bad criticism in wrestling. But you're not as valuable as you think you are. So when you're showing up and you're telling me how valuable you are, or I don't want to do this right now, I don't want to change right now, this, that, what, buddy, I'm not even valuable. You know what I mean? Like, what I'm giving people and what I have up here is valuable, but I'm not valuable in that sense. Like, I'm not worth any fucking money. I'm not going to come to your show. Same attendance. Maybe it builds up down the road, but I'm there. It's good to have me there. It's good to have me in the locker room. But that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get these guys and girls so that there is value. There's just, everybody's just so fucking, I think I'm pretty good at this. I think I'm the best tag team around. I think I know how to fucking draw an audience. It's like, no, you don't. You don't, or you wouldn't be still performing at this level. If you've been doing this a decade or more and you've never been anywhere, and I don't mean a fucking extra on a show or anything, or they brought me in and I sat in catering and got paid $250 to eat catering and hang out with I shook hands with Paul Heyman or whatever. Who gives a shit? It's what doing something in this business, and that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to help you elevate yourself so you can get to that next place to make some money, so you can make a career out of it. And we get so many people in this business that are like, well, I don't want to lose to that guy. This makes me look weak. I've had a guy tell me, oh, this is going to make me look weak in PCW. And the weekend before, I saw him down at Next Level or somewhere else getting their ass handed to him by somebody else. I'm over here building Sin up to be this undefeated monster all these years. And then I'll go down to another promotion and watch an out of shape dude to half his size not sell none of his shit and beat him. And I'm going, you beat this guy? Fuck, 1 hour away where I'm at, nobody beats this guy. This guy is the man over here. So it's just, people need to quit. It's not about taking this serious. It's about, don't stroke your ego so much and be willing to learn, willing to take advice. Show up at a show and realize the reason there's not 5,000 people at this show is because nobody is a draw at this thing, especially you. So if you think we're talking about you, we probably are. And right now I'm talking about a lot of people. You know, I'm not even, I don't run around and say I'm a draw, not even in my own company. So like, no, you're not. You know who's a draw? Dickie fucking Dakin's a draw, man. Dickie Dakin's drawing fans everywhere he goes because they're supporting him and they're following him. So that's a bigger draw than a big name. And we're closing in on it, Paul. What do you got? Anything that you want to throw in this last 15 seconds?
No, man, I love the just the energy. I thought I didn't know what we were going to talk about, and here we go, man. An hour of just talking about a lot of great stuff.
A lot of great stuff. 1 hour. We got some shows coming up. Big Paul, you can catch us all, Pow Wow in Reno on March 22nd. Name of the show?
Luck of the Brawl.
Luck of the Brawl, baby. And April 5th, PCW Extreme Measures at the Oroville Convention Center. That's what I love about it right now. We're wrestling for the Reno Wrestle Factory, and Big Paul's doing commentary right down here at Pro Championship Wrestling. We're collaborating. I show up and support Big Ugly for his stuff. You come over there and supported Big Ugly for his stuff. It's a big collaboration. And most importantly, let's not take ourselves too seriously at the end of the day. You know what? I'm Zack Primetime Reeb. That's the Wrecking Ball. We gave you an extra minute. Do with it as you wish. We're going over.